l- just let me know if you're able to see my screen. Yeah.
Yes, Sheikh, I can see your screen.
Yes. So welcome everyone for a Bhopal Meetup group. This is a basically basically the fourth meetup. And as you know that today topic is customer connector using REST SDK. So in every meetup we are following these guidelines. So basically we are unmuted ourselves so that speaker concentrate on explanation, and if you open a video camera it will be interaction, but it's your choice, and you can write down your all questions in chat section, where whenever speaker having a time, basically speaker complete the current topic or basically the some important one in middle of the topic, then we'll take question one by one, and no need to write a email name because we know that here, and we need a feedback after this meetup whether it is useful or not for you. Yes, so this is a basically agenda today. Here basically we will a kind of network and knowledge sharing session, and after that we have a custom connector using REST SDK, and we have a question and answer and discuss about the next meetup. And yes, so let me introduce myself. As you know that my name is Sheikh Moinuddin. I am a MuleSoft ambassador and the group leader for Bhopal group and Ahmedabad group, and I'm working with Epicero as a solution architect. So I have total 10 years of experience, and 9 years you can consider in MuleSoft. So over to you, Preetham.
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining today's meetup, and surely we'll like to hear from you guys your feedback, and please do let us know what next topic you would like to hear from us in our next meetup. So, my name is Preetham Deshmukh. Overall, I have total 10 plus years of experience, and currently I'm working for Apicero as an associate solution architect, and it's been 4.5 years that I'm working on MuleSoft. Yeah.
Yes. So one more presenter somehow she's not able to make this one, so we'll skip. But Ankita Jaggi is another basically another group member of this group, Bhopal group. So let me, yes. Hey, Fahad, it's your chance.
Yeah, hi Sheikh. So first of all, thank you for letting me speak on this event for this Bhopal meetup. Um, so yeah, about me myself, Fahad. I'm working as a senior software engineer at Epicero, having 2+ years of experience in MuleSoft. And for the past 1 year, I've been part of this connector development projects, and also one or two connectors I possibly made it to certification. So we have that under our team. We have made multiple connectors certified in MuleSoft Public Exchange. Yeah. So looking forward to be, present this.
Yes, thank you, Fahad, for wonderful introduction. So
Yeah.
basically, we have, yes. So Had is going to be share his screen,
Yeah, I'll share my
and I'm
screen.
going to stop it. So let me make stop screen. Yeah.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Um, Window entire screen. Okay, is it visible?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, so today's agenda will be like getting to know about the mule connectors, and what is the need of a custom connector, what is a custom connector, and how we can develop this custom connector using the REST SDK approach. As well as once we are into this REST SDK approach, we will be encountering this connector descriptor thing, and also a little bit about test connection. We all know that we are using test connection here and there in multiple connectors. So I've just planned like what is test connection, what it will do when we click on the test connection button. And at the end we'll deep dive into this Java project, connector Java project. So basically, we all know that Mule connectors are like a pre-built or a reusable integration module that provide us a way to connect with multiple Mule applications to some external systems or services, or any protocols, right? It actually abstract or hide the complexities of interacting with different systems. I mean, it makes us developers easier to integrate with various endpoints, and it can avoid us having to write the custom integration code from scratch. So basically, the advantages of using a connector compared to the older conventional approach is that it is reusable. We can reuse the connectors anywhere we want in a different projects, different applications. And it's a very simplified integration, right? We just need to add the dependency of a connector to our application, and we just need to drag and drop the operation there. We need to configure the what another parameters we need to pass, how we can connect to the end systems, like that. And the interface is very much user friendly, right? And the vast majority of this community and marketplace make us like, if we have any kind of issues with the connectors, we can directly raise a query, raise a question in those community, and get us resolve those issues, right? um and also, when we go into the technical side of the connectors, we have two kind of connectors. One is endpoint based connectors as well as operation based connectors. Endpoint based connectors are nothing but it's some kind of, we can put it in the source flow, like HTTP, or let's say we might have used Salesforce topic listener, JMS, some kind of a connector operation which is listening to an inbound flow. So it serves as a message source for a flow. And if you're speaking about operation based connector, the rest of them, all the one which is doing that complex operation, which makes the specification of operation in order to perform some actions which we decide to do. um this is basically the overall view of an operation, or a connector which we see here. Right over here we can see in the Mule palette, the MongoDB is the component or the module, we can say that. And the associated operations are shown over here. So we can put it like this, like it will be having every connector will be having some configuration and some kind of connection providers, right? Connection provider in the sense, we might be connecting to the end system using basic authentication maybe, or using token based authentication, or auth2 protocol, whatever it is. So these are different connection providers, and every connection providers, or let's say configurations, we have to pass some parameters, right? So that's why we have this mapping to parameters over here. And we have these operations, sources, routers, scopes, and functions associated with the connector. So let's say we have this pre-built connectors, out of the box connectors available with this MuleSoft package, right? Then why do we need to go for custom connectors? So let's say that some might ask, like, why can't we go with the HTTP requester component instead of custom connector? We can achieve most of the things that we do with the custom connector with the HTTP requester component. But the problem is that for HTTP requester operation is can only be used for a simple integration purpose, or for a, let's say, quick prototyping, something like that. So let's say if I have multiple security schemes or a complex integration that needs to be added to my project, which is not possible with an HTTP requester, in that case we might need to go with this custom connector implementation. So this custom connector is reusable and it's very simple to maintain. We can directly publish to our private exchange, or we can get it certified and publish to MuleSoft public exchange as well. As another connector, it is also like whatever complexities and whatever operations it is associated with it, we can abstract it and we can simplify it, right? And we can also optimize it compared to this HTTP requester things, which is not possible. We can only directly give the base URL and those kind of settings. So in the case of optimization, there has been some kind of restrictions in the case of HTTP requester. And also the main advantage of going with HTTP custom connector is that we are not able to achieve non HTTP protocols with this HTTP requester, right? Let's say I want to connect to a legacy, some kind of custom DB, which is not possible with an inbuilt or a pre-built connector. I want to design my own connector having a different settings to connect to a different DB. So in that case, we might need to go with this custom connector thing. And as you can see in this slide, multiple things are mentioned over here. We can integrate this multiple security schemes, and some APIs will be having pagination. In the case of HTTP requester, what we need to do, we need to implement it manually from our end. This logic of pagination. Instead of that, we can hide that complexity. We can do that development inside this Java thing, and we can directly give the simplified version of that operation to the user. And in case of different environments, like we'll be having dev environment, non-prod, prod environment. So different environments, different systems will be having different base URIs. So if you're going with a custom connector, it's a very simple option. We'll be having a simplified version of this parameter passing, where we can simply pass the parameter according to our environment. So when we going on, we'll see that, in the real use case, we'll be showing that. And also the one of the important thing is that metadata protection. We all know that whenever we are dragging an operation from a mule palette, we should be knowing like what data it is expecting, what kind of data, so that we can map it accordingly, and what data is coming out of it, right? But when we are going with HTTP requester, will it be possible? Never, because we won't be understanding what data. So again, we need to go back to that API documentation and see like what should be the payload that we should be passing, and what will be getting out of it, and how we can map it. So instead of that, if a operation, when we drag it, we get to know that that will be much more simpler, right? And also the important thing is that validating connection at design time. We know that test connection button, right? It comes with almost all the connectors. When we give the connection configurations, and we just want to make sure that the credentials that we input is correct or not. So we can test it at the moment where we at the design time itself. We don't need to deploy the app, right? Before we get to test the connection. So these kind of things are possible using this custom connector approach. So let's move on to the next slide. So there are multiple ways to create a custom connector. Initially, there was this XML SDK and Mule SDK as well. But right now, see, even it's in the beta version, there is some approach called REST SDK, which is applicable to only REST APIs. Okay, so we'll be going through that approach today. And why REST SDK? What is the advantage of using REST SDK is that these are all the points that I have mentioned over here. Um, so instead of reading this as advantage, we can call it as a feature. These are also feasible under Mule SDK and under Mule SDK. But the advantage over here is that we don't need to implement it directly over the Java project, or you need to know that core Java itself. Instead of that, there is something called connector descriptor, which we will see in some moment. We can easily give some key value pairs over there, and give the appropriate things like the security scheme or the TLS support. uh, those kind of things we can directly configure over there instead of going to the Java project and implementing that. So yeah, of course, this test connection advantage is also there. We can add this test connection parameter inside that. Yeah, so these are the major steps involved in creating a connector using REST SDK. So if you can see, the first step, as the name says, this is REST based, right? So definitely we need to design an API using RAML or OS, whichever you prefer. And that API specification, using that API specification, we need to create our connector descriptor, which is our second step. Okay, and as you can see, the enclosure, like using that API specification as well as that connector descriptor, we need to create a Maven based connector project. okay, which is the ultimate thing. um, and that's it. I mean, after that, we just need to install that connector in our local, and we can use that. So today we'll be having a real use case of how we are going to do that. Okay, so let's dive into one of the I mean, simple requirement I have given over here. Like, one of the organization is having an app called user app. Okay, it is they have shared their base URI with us, and these are all the operations currently supported by that applications. Okay, two get endpoints, and one post and one delete. So it's basically something related to users. We can get all the users, or a single user if you pass a user ID, or you can create a user and delete a particular user. All of them are like secured with X API key header. It will only be working when we pass the XAPI key, proper XAPI key header. And also, since this XYZ organization is going to have a custom connector, we have told them that we need to have a test connection endpoint as well. So you can think it like we have that slash alive, a slash live or slash health endpoints we have, right, to check whether the application is running or not. So like that, we need to have a slash test connection endpoint that needs to be there. So they have also shared that. So if we have proper credentials with us, if we have a proper XAPI key with us, this test connection will give us a successful response. So when they have given us these endpoints, the first step that we can do is try them in an API client. Okay. Um, so I have created a collection of the endpoints that they have shared with us. The first one is get all users. Okay, this is the base URI, and this is the endpoint for get users, right? And the thing is that in headers, mm, okay, see, I've told you something, right? XAPI key. We need to pass the XAPI key, and it should be RAML POC. Okay, so let's say I'm doing that. I'm sending the request. Okay, see, I'm getting all the response. So just make sure, what if we give the wrong XAPI key over here? Second. Okay. So let's say I'm giving a wrong XAPI key here. Then it will show, one second, not this one. See, invalid API key. So if we are not sending a proper header, I mean proper security key, then it will return invalid header. That's why we have this test connection endpoint as well. So once we test all the endpoints that is given by the organization, we can directly go for the REST API designing with the RAML. Okay. So I have already created one RAML for saving time. Um, so let's just go through the RAML and understand what are the key points required. Yeah. So base URI, whatever base URI they have given, I have given over here, and the protocol supported, and the security scheme, which is just passing this XAPI key header. So we have given the pass-through type as the security scheme. We just need to pass the valid API key under the header XAPI key. That's it. And we have multiple, I mean, that 4 endpoints which is mentioned, and all the examples, data types, everything is given. The important thing over here is that we need to give the data types of each and every individual, each and every endpoints, because for metadata propagation we need to have this data types. Data types is nothing but a RAML data type. For every example we can generate one. um, and we haven't included this test connection, because test connection we'll be only using inside the connector, not in the RAML. Okay, so here itself we can try that. So if I'm passing uh, wrong API key, it will show invalid API key. If I'm passing the proper API key, it will show me the proper response. So once I have designed this RAML API, sorry, REST API, what I need to do is to download this as a zip file and keep it in my folder. So before that, okay, we need to understand like how display name and description from here is mapped over here, right? So we have given some title over here, right? This will be resolved as a connector name over here. So since we have given it as user app, it will be showing as user app. Okay. And whatever operation display names that we have given, see, get all users, we have given as display name, that will be shown over here, get all users. And let's say I have given this description. So when we hover around our operation, it will show this respective description over there. Okay. This is our actually our goal, right? And also if I go to one of the query params, so this get user by id operation is expecting an id, right? Of course. So when I say display name, that will show in the operation configuration as well as the description also when we hover around that um, parameter. Okay. And also if it is required, then if you don't give anything, it will show this attribute dash dash is required. And also data type giving is important because as you can see over here, it will enable the metadata propagation. Okay. Mm, okay. Okay. So once we are done with this raml design, as I told you, the next step would be downloading the project. So let me download this. So it will be in the zip format. I can go to that zip and I have created one folder over here, Bhoapl Meetup. Okay. Let me extract this. So the entire raml that we designed, it's shown over here. So what would be the next step? The next step would be um, to create a connector descriptor. If you go back to that image that I shown you before, so the first step is API specification, which we are done with. The second step would be connector descriptor, generating the connector descriptor, right? It is nothing but a YAML file. So how we can generate a connector descriptor? So we have this Maven command, which is available under this REST SDK Mojo artifact provided by MuleSoft. Okay. So it's basically a plugin which is having multiple goals. The first goal that we are going to run will be create descriptor command. Okay. The next will be create connector command. So basically I will show you how we can do that. So I am in the same directory where we have this raml file. I'm opening git bash over here, or you can use cmd as well. So basically I'm going to run a mvn command. And the is under the group id com.mulesoft.connectivity, and the artifact id will be rust sdk mojo. And the version, we have multiple versions available, which is provided by MuleSoft, but at the moment the latest version is 0.8.0 rc3. So this is the entire plugin that we want to work with to create a descriptor. So the goal would be create descriptor. Okay. And when we are running this command, we need to pass some parameters saying that uh, uh, I need to pass my API specification. Okay, so this is the command for that. You see the root raml name, user app connector. Second. Okay. User app connector.raml. And also one more option I am passing, which is the descriptor mode. I'll just show you why we are passing this in some moments. Okay. So when I do that, We will make use of this REST SDK Mojo artifact, and it will create the descriptor. Okay, so the build is success. So what happened? Nothing but a descriptor.yaml file is created. See, so I will open that. Let's see what is a descriptor. So this is the YAML file which has been generated. So see, whatever name that we have given over here, connector name, it is showing over here, right? And there is a connector maven coordinates which is by default showing com.mulesoft.connectors, and the artifact ID is the connector name, and the version initially it will be 1.0.0 snapshot. Okay. And whatever base URI we have given in the RAML, it is showing over here, and the base type of the base URI is parameter. And we also have the endpoints which we defined over there. Okay. Okay, let me remove this. And also, if you see, most of the names, key names will be same as RAML. And we also have something called ignored on every endpoint or every operations, and also in every query parameters. Okay. So let's see what are all those things in some moment. So as I told you, connector descriptor is nothing but an additional layer to our RAML. So it basically gives us an idea about what kind of connector it is, and what are the endpoints that is involved in this connector, and what security scheme is there, and also like what is the like we are going to see. I mean, in some moment we'll be seeing like what kind of other key value pairs we can pass it in here, and it will give us more an idea about what the connector is. That's the main thing. So when we were creating that this command, okay, when we are running this command, we were passing two options, right? API specification as well as descriptor mode. So this is the table which tells us like what are all the possible options that we can pass. And as you can see, API specification is a required option, required parameter. All of them are other, I mean rest of them are optional. This output directory, since we have not mentioned anything, it will generate the descriptor.yaml in the same directory where we are running this command. Okay. And I have also told you this descriptor mode, I have set it as, if you see verbose, what it will do basically is that when I have not given that, when I omit that command, what it will basically do is there won't be this endpoint related details. I mean, we know that verbose means the entire details it should be generating, right? So the endpoint related details once I have not given this descriptor mode. So to make more sense, I have given like that. Okay. So these are the things that we can configure in our connector descriptor. The connector name, um, it's shown over here. Whatever connector name I have given, that will be reflected over here. And this, when we look into the configuration XML of any connectors, every element should be having this parent, right? Parent tag. This tag should be, we can configure it what tag that we want from here itself. The keyword for that will be extension XML. So let me add that extension XML and let me give user. That's it. Um, and the base Java package, where how we want the structure of the connector Java project that is yet to be generated from this, how we want that, like in which package do you want that. It will be by default com.mulesoft.connector, so we don't need to do anything. Let it be like that. um, the next thing would be a base URI. I have told you something about base URI. For multiple environments you'll be having multiple base URIs. So let's say if I'm giving the base URI type as parameter, see there is something called parameter I have given over here. I mean by default it is parameter showing over here. Parameter is nothing, we can change it according to our use case. Like different environments, it can have different base URIs. So if it is fixed, okay, let's say I have given the parameter, I have changed it to fixed, and once I generate this connector, what happens is that um, we cannot have this option of base URI to change anywhere. So any endpoints which we try to hit, it will be having a fixed base URI. Okay. And when we give multiple, let's say I have multiple operations, but the base URI differs according to different operation. So in that case, we might need to have different base URIs, right? I mean, operation A is having base URI something, operation B is having base URI something. So if we have a single configuration which is shown over here, it won't be applicable. So if we give a multiple option over here, we can achieve that. Okay. And also this ignored. So once we complete this Rust API designing using RAML, so let's say we are in the descriptor part. Okay, so and moving on, if the requirement changes, okay, if the requirements, they are saying that they don't want to go with this one of the endpoint, or they are changing the implementation of query param to some other things, you don't want to go with the query param, then what we can do is just put this ignored as true, then that will do it. Okay, so basically ignored can be applied to any endpoints, any operations, or any query params. uh, okay, the next thing would be test connection. So I have initially told you, right, they have give us an endpoint just exclusively for testing connection. We can give that test connection endpoint over here. So what I need to do is I just need to give the test connection, and the path would be basically what it will do. Whenever we are clicking on the test connection, it will get this base URI first and append this slash test connection, then check whether the status code is 200 or not, then it will return accordingly. So we can of course customize that. We can add complex things like maybe we can send a post request to one of the endpoints with the credentials. But for the time being, I'm going with the basic, very basic default thing, that is expecting a valid 200 status code and returning the result to the user. Okay, so yeah, these are the possible configuration, I mean customization that you can do with this test connection param. See, response validation, we can validate a particular test connection only saying that okay, the string, the payload should contain these values, and multiple security schemes will be there, right, for a connector. Maybe basic will be there, other I mean XAPI key will be there, so we can have test connection for different security schemes. So saying that, we are done, which is our connected descriptor part, right? So what is third step? The third step would be creating a connector project, a Java Mavenized project from using this API specification as well as the connector descriptor. For that, what I need to do, I need to again go back to that directory where I have generated this descriptor.yaml and also customized it. Open the git bash in the same directory and run the command mbn. Okay. Here, I have told you this particular artifact having multiple goals, right? One of the goal is create descriptor, the other one is create connector. Okay, and here also we need to pass mandatorily the API specification, and no need of this descriptor mode because we have already generated it. The next thing would be descriptor, because we have generated the descriptor, and you literally what we are saying is that using that API specification as well as the descriptor, please generate a connector project for me. So that's what it is telling over here. Okay, so just see the goal. Okay, connector descriptor is done. See, the goal is create connector. Okay, the possible parameters that we can pass is, see, the required parameters are API specification as well as descriptor. Rest of them are like optional. So let me run this. Okay, since we have not given specifically given any project output directory, it will generate in the same directory. So let's go back to our directory and see there is a folder called user app created. Okay, So what is it? It's basically a Maven project. See, there is a project object model as well as that SRC based structure. So what we need to do, we need to open this project as a Maven project inside any IDE. Let's say I'll be preferring IntelliJ. Um, you can use Eclipse and even Anypoint Studio as well. So let's say I'm going to, yeah, okay. So there is this black icon showing over here, which is telling it as a project. So this is the high level overview. One second, let the dependencies get resolved. Yep. Yeah, the sync is complete. The dependencies are resolved. So first let's go into that project object model. So from here onwards, this will be mostly Java based things, little bit. So if you go to this project object model, the plugins involved are basically the Maven as well as Mule plugin. And also we have Munit plugin. This is for installing the connector. And we have this Munit plugin for designing the test cases related to the operations of the connector. And also we have this Jacoco plugin, which is for code coverage purpose. Okay. Um, we are having this high level view of this project. Like we have the main files as well as the test files. In this Munit folder, we can have multiple test cases. And let's do one thing. Let's install this connector as a generic one, and let's improvise from it. Okay. So before that, let's go back to that group ID part of the POM. See, whatever connector GAV we have given in the connector descriptor, it is shown over here, right? See, com.mulesoft.connectors user app, and the version of the connector is shown. So how we can install this? Basically, it's a simple Maven command, mvn install. Then since we have not designed any test cases as of now, we can skip the test cases and install it. Okay. um okay. So as you all aware of this, like connector GAV, or the I mean group ID artifact ID version, our package will be installed inside the M2 repo in this folder, right? com.mulesoft.connectors user app, and under this version. So let me go there and see. Okay, now there is nothing called user app. Okay, we'll see. Also, the connector descriptor is automatically added over here in the project itself. So from what MuleSoft recommend is that when we are changing something inside connector GAV, you have to regenerate the project again. So whenever a developer comes to see this connector, initially what he can go through is this connector descriptor to understand about this connector. Okay. So the build is success. If I go to my M2 repo and see, there is a user app folder which is having this connector. So connector is nothing but see, there is a jar file and associated poem files and everything. So what we need to do, we can add this dependency as a Mule plugin in our Anypoint Studio in any projects. So you need to create a new project and add this. For time being, I have created a project and I have not added anything. So I mean, I have not added the connector yet. So let me go to my pom.xml and add the dependency of that connector. Okay.
Fahad, we have one question here.
Yeah. Yes, MuleSoft has documentation around all possible connector descriptor. Yeah, we have a Rust SDK documentation available, which is still in beta state. Let me share it in chat. It is having all the version related things and everything. Okay. As you can see, it's still in beta state, not yet released the final one. Um, okay, yeah, we were adding this thing, right? Okay. So I have added my dependency from the pom.xml, but everybody will be aware of this. Like all the connectors will be what classifier, like Mule plugin, right? Only when we add it as Mule plugin, it will be identified as a connector. So let me save this, and there is some progress going on, and the connector is added to my Mule palette. Just note the generic icon over here, which is provided by MuleSoft. If we have not given any icon of our choice, okay. See, and the operations which we defined over there is given over here: create a user, delete a user, or get all users, and get a user by ID. Let's drag and drop individual operations here, and try to run this. Okay, create a user, get a user by ID, and delete a user. So what and all the configurations that we have given, let's look into it. Okay, see, we have given a base URI parameter as well as API key in the connection provider, right? That is showing over here. So let's say I'm giving a proper XAPI key over here, and I'm doing a test connection here. Let's see if it will be a success or not. Okay, object is possible. Okay, let's see. 1 second. Okay, I have already created one before. Maybe that's why. Mm, or else we need to create a new project since. Okay, fine. Just a moment. All right. It is added as a Mule plugin, and everything looks fine. Let's see. Okay. So basically, what happened was previously I have generated a different version of the connector and added that configuration and tested it. So when I'm testing it again, it is causing that conflict, and that is the issue over here. So I have created a new project and tried it, and it is working. Um, okay. So let's try only one endpoint as of now. And the configuration. So if I am giving a wrong um, say API key over here, it will say status code were not 200. And if I am giving a proper thing, should say test connection successful. So this is the one of the achievement that we can do with this custom connector. Um, so basically, for the next improvement, what we can have is that to have a proper icon over here, right? The icon seems to be very generic. So whenever an organization or an endpoint or an end system is creating a custom connector, of course they want to implement their icon and display it, right? And also when we are like editing the configurations, as you can see, this base URI, it is in optional state. Even if we don't give any base URI, this is not showing any errors. So we need to fix that. As well as the XAPI key, it's not like hiding, it is not masking the password, right? We need to also mask that. So these three improvements, let's add that and increment our version and install the connector again. Okay, so for that, let's go into this and understand about the Java implementation. So this is the basic structure we have over here. Initially, the starting, the entry point of the connector is inside this extension package, and whatever names that we have given to the connector. See, we have given extension name as user app, it is showing over here. So here what we need to note is that all of them, all of the methods, all of the what do you say, parameters is having annotations is I mean, do a key thing in this connector development. So you need to be well versed well versed with these annotations. And also this whatever XML prefix that we have given in the connector descriptor, it is shown over here. So of course you can edit this over here and generate it as a new connector, but this gives us a more idea about how a connector looks like, right? So when a connector is added to the Mule palette, what it is doing, it is adding the configurations associated with it and this extension as well as this XML everything. So let's go into this configuration class. So configuration class is defined inside this config package. Okay, what does this configuration say? Configuration says that this is the connection provider class that you need to load, and these are all the operations supported by our connector. Okay, so we'll come back to that operation class. Before, let's go to this connection provider class. Connection provider class is defined inside connection provider package. Okay, we have this name shown over here as well as the display name. If we go back to studio and see there is a XAPI key connection shown over here, right? It is sorry, yeah, it is picked up from here. Okay, okay. And we have, for every operation or for every class, we will be having three classes actually. One is the base class, one is the actual class, and one is the refinement class. So actually the SDK generates a structure in such a way so that it will be more, understandable for a developer. So this is basically the connection configuration. um, Let me show it one second. Yeah, so here if you see, we have given the display name as base URI. It is shown over here as base URI, and there is something called yeah, see, whenever I hover around that base URI, parameter base URI, each instance or tenants get its own. See, whatever summary I have given in the summary annotation, it is reflected over there. And there is something called optional annotation. Because of this optional annotation only, when we remove this, there is no error showing. Okay, we need to avoid that, right? So we have to make it not optional, but an important, I mean, mandatory value. So how will we do that? There is something called, I mean, we can remove that. That's the first thing. When we remove this optional annotation, it will become mandatory by default. But user should have an idea like what value should I pass, right? What is some kind of example that we need to pass. So MuleSoft provides us this SDK provides us a particular annotation where we can pass this, yeah, like this, and we can remove this optional as well. So that's the first thing that we did. parameter base URI, right? Base URI of user app. We can, yeah. The next parameter which we are discussing was the XAPI key parameter. XAPI key is having, we need to mask that, right? Valid API key, this is correct. So for masking, we have an annotation called password. Okay, that's it. We just need to pass the annotation as password. So that's the second thing. And the third thing about was the generating an icon for our connector, right? For icon, what I usually do is I go to fonts.google.com, and there is an icons in the above navigation bar. Let's search for something that is similar to our integration, right? User. Let's select this, and the thing that which you need to keep in mind is the format that is supported is SVG. So let's download SVG format, and it is downloaded. Let me go to my downloads. I will copy this, and I will go back to my project folder, and this is the main folder, right? I mean, we have the src, we have the pom.xml, everything. Here we need to create a folder called icon, then paste that icon over here, and one more step is to rename this to icon. That's it. We are done. We can reflect this icon to our mule palette. Okay. So these three things we have done. We have masked the password, we have changed the optional thing to mandatory, and we have changed the icon. Now what is the next step? We can install this connector. Okay, again, so before installing, we have to increment the version. So let's say, let's make this a proper version. Instead of a snapshot, let's change it to 1.0.0 and run the command again. Let's make sure that description and everything that we have given is showing. See, when I hover around, whatever description I have given, it is showing over here. Delete user. And also if I drag and drop get user by ID, this parameter is showing as mandatory user ID. And when I hover around it, it is showing whatever description I have given. Okay, this is success. Now try to increment the version again here in Studio. Um, and let's see if the icon and everything is reflect. See, whatever icon we have given, it is reflecting over here. And let's see about the configuration. Um, now the base URI is showing as mandatory, and when we have given something in the example, it is showing in the grayed out format, right? And the XAPI key which we have given, now it is masked. So basically, you might have encountered many similar situations. So just want to know that this is what happening. Any parameter we be having these proper annotations. The developer will be designed in such a way, and you will get this result. That's it. 1 second. Okay, test connection is successful. See. Now let's understand one more thing about the test connection. Like, what is test connection doing internally, right? We want to know that, right? So when you go back to this connection provider class, and there is something in the base class. Okay, there is something called, if you remember, we have this test connection endpoint as slash test connection, right? So this is actually creating a method called validate. Okay, so my connection provider is extending from the base connection provider class. So there is a function called validate defined inside the base connection provider class. So whenever the application is getting deployed, I am saying that no, don't call that validate method. Instead, I have overridden a method and written some method of my own. So here I have given some logics of my own, where I need to append the slash test connection to the existing base URI and get the response in return. So if I am getting a proper response, that means return the test connection as success. Otherwise, return the test connection as failure. So basically, when we click on test connection, what it is in behind it is doing is that it is deploying the application. It is deploying the application and calling this method, validate method associated with it. Okay. Um, yeah. So even when we deploy this application, let's say I'm deploying this, every connectors configured properly, it will be sending a test connection or a validate method internally. Okay. And that's it with the test connection thing. Do we have time, Pridham? No.
Let's take question, then we'll decide.
Okay, okay. After doing changes, what did we reinstall? The same connector. We need to update the version. Yeah, yeah. Pridham has given the proper answer there.
Yeah. Uh, just you can go ahead. We can wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, one more thing, like about the flow of the operation. That's it. We need to understand like what happens when we hit an endpoint internally, right? So basically, when this application deploys with this custom connector which we did, I have already created one collection for this get user, get users, right? What is I have given here? Get user. So okay, let me see the console. Okay, see, I'm getting this from the Mule app. See, localhost. So currently, this connector is returning me the proper response. So what is the flow of this get all users operation from this? If I am going to that connection provider class, okay, every operation will have this create connection. There is a connection object associated with it. If you know, right? So what happens is that there is this default headers added to every operation. See, whatever XAPI key header that we give in the parameter of that connection, that will be appended, that will be added to this XAPI key header, and it will be sent along to all the requests. So that is how returns the response. Now let's go into that operation package which we have not yet visited. So by default, this SDK generate the operation names as what is the type of the operation. If it is a delete, get, put, post, that will be shown first, then the endpoint of that operation. So if you can see, this get is the type and get user by id is the endpoint, right? So we were looking at get users operation. So how is an operation defined inside this SDK? So as you can see, I have told you about annotations, right? Everything is related to annotations. So there is a display name annotations associated with it, which will show the display name of that operation. See, get all users, get all users. Summary is get all registered users. So if I hover around that, get all registered users, and the media type that it is after what it is getting is that a response type of that media type is given over here as application bar JSON. And also when we see this output resolver, this is the important part of metadata propagation. We whenever we okay, metadata we haven't seen for this, right? Let's see that. I have told you this is a major advantage of going with custom connector. So if I click on get all users and if I go to output, see, there is something which is already showing over here, right? Name, id, age, and everything. This will be the response. So if I drag and drop this, create a user, and let's say this is a post request, so I need to know what are all the inputs that I need to pass. I need to go to input. See, there is an expected input: name, age, and email. These three things you need to pass, then only it will work. And what is the output? It will be a string. That's it. So how is it done inside the connector project? So every request, every operation class will be having this output resolver and an input resolver as well. Okay, it's nothing but a metadata resolver class. If you just navigate to that class, it is defined inside this metadata package in our main folder. What it will do is there is something called generated schemas, which is generated in the resources folder. Okay, there is a resources folder in the project package. Let me go to this get users output schema. So this is nothing but a JSON schema. So MuleSoft refers to the JSON schema of every operation and inputs that, display that over here. Okay, whatever it is, it will display that over here. So JSON is nothing but what are all the required key value pairs and what is the type of the things. These are all generated here. But how it is generated? Like we haven't given any specifically JSON schemas anywhere, right? What we were dealing with was, if you go back here, see this is a raml based data type. We were given raml based data type. So what the SDK does internally is that using that raml based data type, it automatically generated a JSON schema, and this JSON schema in turn is returned to our operation. So and it is being reflected in the metadata propagation part of our Anypoint Studio. So so whenever I drag and drop this connector to my mule palette, these are all the things that it is showing. Okay, and whenever I run this, it should be having a connection object and a configuration. um Let me, okay, get user by id. If get user by id, yeah, if I am drag and drop get user by id, I can see there is a user id parameter, and there is a, it's mandatory, right? So if I go over here, inside that get user by id operation, there is something called user id param over here. See, summary a users id. So we can add something over here as a another parameter, and if we install it, it will show over there. And we need to work on that logic, how we can, I mean, what we need to do with that, that we need to decide. Okay, so after passing these parameters, what it is doing, it is just calling a method with all the configurations and parameters that we passed. And since it is a rust based, I mean, connector, it will be sending a request, right? HTTP request. So how it is doing, it is passing all these parameters which we have done and sending a request to this method, do request. Okay, yes. So basically, just want to give you an idea that whenever the flow reaches the point of this operation, what it is happening, it is basically sending a request. And if you are aware of this completion callback async request, it's basically, I mean, waits for a response and it respond back with the proper response. So it is the overall flow of an operation happening over here. Okay, we can edit this over here as well, and we can, add complex integrations, and we can maybe, work with the tokens and everything. So that's it with the operation part.
Fahad, we have a question from Ramachandra.
Okay, if you change outputs in raml, then you have to create the app again and configure everything, see proper metadata. Yes, yeah, that's why MuleSoft recommends us one thing. If you're developing a connector, enrich the raml with everything that you have first. Okay, make sure that it's not like you can add it later. So the steps should be followed accordingly. Also, like for proper documentation, that's why you need to have the proper, every output metadata, everything initially added in that raml itself. So let's say if you're not strictly following that, let's say you don't want to go back to raml and do that, you can directly do that in, if you're a java based person, you can directly do that over here, right? As I mentioned, if I want to pass one more um, parameter in get user id, I can add a new parameter over here, uh, and work on it, right? And if I want to change the metadata of the, as you mentioned, if I want to change the metadata of the any endpoint, what I can do is, one second, there is a metadata option over here, and yeah, I can go to respective metadata in the resources. I can change it to whatever metadata I want. So but if you are maintaining a proper documentation and everything from the raml itself, starting from the raml itself, then I would recommend to be, I mean, the raml to be enriched with all the required things. You don't need to go back and regenerate it. But in the case of, like, if you don't give a, I mean, it's not a important thing, then you can change it in here itself. I mean, before this Rust SDK, we had Mule SDK, right? We don't have any RAML or anything. Basically, what Mule SDK generates is the same project, same Java-based project itself. So developers who are working on the Java here itself. So I guess I have answered your question. Um, and related to, there is one more thing that we need to understand. There are three types of connectors actually. I forgot to mention initially. Actually, there is a community connector, a custom connector. I'm speaking about the custom connector. There is community connector, and there is certified connector. um, there is select connector as well, right? So what basically the certified connector is that, if I go to mm, any point exchange, just a minute. Mm, yeah, see, this is a connector, right? This through MFT is a connector. um, okay, this is developed by MuleSoft, and that is why it is showing us. Okay, this is MuleSoft partner actually. So this is a certified connector, but developed by a MuleSoft partner, and they have gone through the proper certification process and everything, and they are able to publish to MuleSoft Anypoint Exchange, right? So in some cases, we want to we want to make the connector publicly available, but in some cases, for some exclusive projects which they don't want to make the connector public, what they can do instead is that they can develop the connector of their own, and make the connector as community based connector. So, and they can provide the connect to the different use case and all. But the problem is that the support in this case will be less, and you need to contact who developed the connector. um and basically that's it. Like, we have covered almost everything. Like, the next thing would be test cases, and also there is something called mutual debugging, which I think we don't have time for. Like, if we are encountering some kind of bugging, some kind of problem with our operation which we developed, we might need to know at which point of code we have that issue, right? In that case, if we have only a proper debugging process like remote JVM, then only we get to know like how we can do that. So it is possible using remote JVM thing with IntelliJ as well as Anypoint Studio, by putting breakpoints wherever you want. So once you start debugging this application, it will stop at that particular point, and you will have that debugging option coming over here, and you can debug it very easily. So those are the advantages, but at the moment it's the time is not allowing us. um
Yeah, we can take question. One more question.
okay, pagination at high level at least. Yeah, actually there are three type of pagination that is supported in connected descriptor, which is called, one is offset based pagination, and then there is number based pagination, and there is one more thing. At the moment I'm not remembering. So let me give you an idea about it. Just a minute. Yeah, we have this whole document with me. Uh, yeah, as I have told you, we have three pagination: offset pagination, marker pagination, and page number pagination. So in the connector descriptor, we can give the pagination like this. Okay. Um, like what is the type, and yeah, what parameters, and what should be the, so every paging response will be having one page will be having a response about if there is any next page, or how many pages are there, right? With that logic we can hit the next request. So this can internally be achieved using this pagination key. Again, when we do this, what happens is that the operation implementation is having that proper method call and everything. Again, we can customize it over here as well. Okay, it's according to the developer who is doing it. Any other questions? No, right? Is this doc accessible publicly? I don't think so. um, I'm not aware of it. Like, Pritham, is this document?
I'm not sure. I think no, it's not accessible publicly, it seems.
Okay, okay. Fine. This document is actually very old document. At the
Yeah,
moment, yeah, at the
now it
moment
should
we
be
are not
updated.
going with that approach. Previously, we were creating connectors using a jar and jar with dependencies and all. But now we are directly using this MVN command and generating the connector. So this document was shared at that moment only. But we have this little bit taken from there, but currently it's upgraded. Um, so basically that's it from my end. We have made this possible, like we have installed the connector and we have tested everything. um,
Hey, thanks for. Let's
yeah,
see
yeah.
if
So
we have any
yeah, one more.
questions.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
basically I was the intention was to make sure that you might be having enough knowledge on connectors and everything, but you guys will be I mean you'll be riding a car for a long time. Like, let's assume the car as a connector, but you might be knowing like what happens inside that, right? What happens inside the engine, what happens inside when we drag and drop the connector, when we click on the test connection. So that was my main intention, to let you guys know about what is happening internally when we do these things. Of course, it won't be giving a big idea about everything, but it will give you a broad idea, about a high level idea about what is happening. So I hope that it was a, fruitful session for everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So it was very informative, and thanks for giving us
Yeah, yeah,
such a knowledgeable session.
thank you.
Thank you, Bahad, for wonderful session.
Yeah,
So, it is a request from my side. Can you please, everyone, if open a camera, I will take a screenshot. Uh,
Yeah, also, we have a few suggestions for the next topic. Thanks,
yeah, yeah.
Ramachandran.
okay. Thank you, Venkatesh, for opening up. Mm, Yes, I've just taken screenshot. Let me share my screen again.
Oh, Nikhil
Uh,
Ramachandran, can you just switch on your
if it is
quickly take
possible
a
for you.
snap? Yeah.
I think. Oh, okay, no problem. So
No
let
issue.
me share my screen. Uh, so basically, this is a end of this meetup, and basically we're wrapping up. So basically, if you want to see any next topic and date, and if you want to become a speaker as well, so just contact us on basically on LinkedIn. So I'm going to basically give my LinkedIn here. I'm going to just give you my LinkedIn profile, so you can just basically send me message or send me message to Preetham as well, so that uh, we'll basically will connect with you as a speaker. And if you want to check or basically understand or basically want any topic, special topic, then also ping me that or ping them as well, so that we are going to take this topic in next meetup. So for meanwhile, thank you. Bye bye. Hope you like
Bye.
this session. Yeah,
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
thank
Fahad.
you.
Bye.
Bye.